Wukusu, peace, black power, and welcome to Harlem Liberation School's YouTube channel. Harlem Liberation School is a black nationalist, pan-African community organization based in Harlem. We provide relevant and credible political education to help black people wake up, clean up, and stand up, in the words of Brother Malcolm X. To do this, we provide panel discussions, political commentary, mini documentaries, leadership tips, classes, and interviews with some of our most dedicated and effective leaders, activists, and intellectuals around the world. The concept of Wukusu is very important to us and central to our mission. It is our greeting, our motto, and our guiding philosophy. Wukusu is an acronym for the phrase,
Wake up, clean up, stand up.
Wake up means developing black nationalist and pan-African consciousness. Clean up tells us to identify and eliminate our self-defeating behavior that gets in the way of us being our highest selves. Stand up compels us to use our gifts and our resources to exert leadership in our communities to help liberate our people. We humbly ask you to subscribe to our channel so we can reach more people. We encourage you to like, share, and comment on our videos, and we invite you to donate to our work either through sending us a super chat here on YouTube or by sending donations through Cash App to $TRUSELF143. Now, let's build. Peace and Black Power families, Brother Ajay Taimba from Harlem Liberation School, where we teach black people proudly to wake up, clean up, and stand up. And that's particularly important in this day and time where the political climate is so overtly repressive, where because of governmental administrative political dictates, a lot of our people are running around pretty scared and paranoid. It's very important we remind ourselves that we've participated in black resistance and black nation building from the very time that they took the first African from the coast of Africa. And there's no reason why we should stop now. So we're here to remind you of who we are, whose we are, and what we are here to do, what we must do. Harlem Liberation School is in the midst of a very important series. We, of course, like to think all of them are important, but this has a particular importance because black women, as Brother Malcolm said, I think he quoted, are the most disrespected, neglected, and hated group on the planet. And so what we wanted to do with our community empowerment series is to identify and highlight some of our sisters. Now, unfortunately, we don't have enough days in the weeks in the year, family, to highlight every sister. That would unfortunately be impossible because there's so many. But those that we know, those that we learn about, we are trying to highlight them to show these are black women, all who love black people, may have different political ideologies, but all of them love black people. And more importantly, all of them serve black people. So it's not just I'm proud to be black, I love black people abstractly, but they actually are involved in tangible, concrete community service on our behalf. We want to spotlight and highlight them so that, one, you can learn more about these different sisters, so that the little girls who may watch this will say, wow, they got lawyers, they got activists, principals, all types of designers, librarians, in this case, all types of people. So they can see that we doing it on every level. So that brothers who have very limited beliefs of our sisters, who I don't know if they've been living under a rock all these decades, don't know that black women have been the backbone of many of our organizations, many of our organizational movements, and certainly of our households. That's a fact. No one can even dispute that. So we're trying to let it be known where we stand on the issue, but more importantly, to show the community, that we got some precious jewels here, family. We need to recognize them while they're alive to maybe keep inspiring them and hopefully inspire some of you watching to follow in those type of footsteps. So without further ado, we have a sister. Now I have her whole bio, family. I asked every guest, right? That's a one paragraph bio, but what I find is we wind up going through it in the show. And I would rather just kind of speak extemporaneously. This is a sister that my lovely queen and I met. I don't know at this point how many years ago, but we were in a conference in Mississippi. And this sister has been named by Walima Baruti and Ya Baruti themselves, and you know who they are in Atlanta and who they are to our people, as the frontline librarian, because you know he has a concept of being a frontline warrior. This sister is probably one of the, upon meeting her and the energy, most authentic and humble. And I don't mean humble, meek humble. I mean opposite of arrogant humble. And dedicated and does the consistent work, on behalf of us and our youth. And that stands out to me, that kind of those character pieces and her love for the people. And so without further ado, we're going to get more into this family with her life and things you should know about. Without further ado, let us please welcome our queen warrior, librarian, doing it on many levels for our people, Sister Crystal Denise. Peace, good sister. How you be?
Please, I'm well. I'm well. Thank you so much for those kind words. And I'm looking at Sister Brenda, Queen Brenda, in the comments. I'm truly humbled and thankful and grateful to share this space with you, this time with you, and really truly appreciate the kind words you said, because that's one of my missions, is to age gracefully and be humble and graceful in this walk. Even within the fight, you still need to be graceful
That's
about it.
right.
Hmm.
And we are very thankful for you. We've had a number of sisters on. We're gonna have a number of other sisters coming on, and some of whom Mama Ya will be on next.
Yeah, I saw that.
This is a big deal for us, and I wish
Mhm.
we were wealthy and could give y'all like $1 million check. You know what I'm saying, to set you up.
Right.
But
Mhm. Mhm.
since we can't do that, we're showing love, and I think that's important too. Um, I want to get into our questions. I see some comments though. Let me get some of those
Yeah, Sister
out the
Brenda,
way real
Queen
quick.
Brenda.
It's the Queen Bee. She
I love
says,
you too.
Wakusu. Well, that's our acronym for Wake Up, Clean Up, Stand Up. That's Harlem Liberation School's greeting. Out the mouth of Brother Malcolm himself, when asked what should we do, he said, wake up, clean up, stand up. Can't get more direct than that.
Right.
She says, Wakusu. She's welcoming people to Harlem Liberation School. She's encouraging people to join us as we talk to our good sister, Crystal Denise, and welcoming you back to the forum, Sister Crystal, saying that your bio doesn't do you justice. That's cool. And she's saying she loves you, and you heard Sister Crystal say, I love you right back, good sister. So that's
Yes.
a good thing. Um, I hope Still Learning. I like that name, Still Learning. Thank
Mhm.
you for giving Sister Crystal her flowers.
Mhm.
Absolutely. Uh, we thank Sister Crystal for giving us a reason to give some flowers, because so many times we complaining about what some of the Negroes aren't doing. We forget about the Africans and the new
Yes.
Africans and Black folk that's doing good work. So that's what we're trying to do, is highlight the people that are in alignment, so to speak. Now,
Right.
one of the things, Sister Crystal, that stood out to me was that you emphasized your early experiences growing up as a child, I believe, with your grandparents, and then you had some and parents involved in the community, entrepreneurial. Could
Yes.
you talk to us a little bit about that experience and how you believe those experiences growing up with them
Mhm.
helped to shape your path as a librarian and a community educator for our people?
Sure thing. So, yes, thank you for that question, because I think a lot of times we don't reflect back on those experiences. And at this season in my life, I'm losing a lot of loved ones. I lost my parents some time ago. And I tend to reflect a lot more now, as I age. But I was thinking about my grandparents, my maternal grandparents specifically. My parents decided when I was about 10 years old, we were living in Milwaukee. They were part of that great migration, my parents and some other family members. And my dad decided that he wanted to move back south to a small town in Arkansas, southeast Arkansas, Montrose, Arkansas. And there, my maternal grandparents, George and Carrie Slade, had the first thing they did was had a dry goods store. So they sold everything, canned goods, the pickle pig feet, the pickles, all that good stuff that Southern folks really enjoy and like and need. A lot of it was needed. So I remember my first memories were when we used to go visit them. in the summertime and during special family occasions. We would go visit and we would, buy our things from the store. But when we moved back down to live, they had transformed it into like a local juke joint. So if you seen Sinners, it's kind of that juke joint style where they had the pool tables, they had pinball machines, they had the jukebox, and my grandmother would be back in the back cooking burgers and things of that nature. So they were had this quote juke joint North End Cafe, but it also served as a safe space. It also served the community because at that time these small communities were still segregated. You had the railroad track that divided the town into white and black. And so their space served as a safe space for people to unwind, for entertainment, for just, relaxing and just having a good, clean, safe time. And so once they retired, my parents took the reins, right? And they kept it going like that at first, but then my mom had another division. She wanted to go back to the dry goods kind of style and serve the community in that capacity. So they moved the store closer to our home in town. And that's what my parents did. They just served the community. And she would always make note of if she didn't have an item, what people needed and asked for when they came in. And she would make sure that she had that on the shelves the next time they came. And then my dad, he was also a barber and a jack of many trades. And so he was the town carpenter. And so I just saw them display and pour their love into everything they did and provided for the community. And that helped shape me into thinking about how I could serve and what skill set I possess that I could serve my community with. And so once I began my path on literacy and librarianship, it just kind of sparked that. And I went back and fetched it, Sankofa. I went back and fetched all that community love and village building and mending that I already had planted within me in my DNA. And sometimes when I look at some pictures, because I posted a picture of my grandparents' store, Slade's Grocery, and their house was right next to it. They had this little bridge thing where we could walk from their house to the side door into the store. And so many people that are from my hometown connected and said, "Oh yeah, I remember that." So it's just a lot of good memories, and it really inspires me and encourages me and grounds me to keep on the path that I'm currently on. So I think a lot of times if we just slow down, pause, reflect, and reminisce, we'll understand that everything we have is already within us.
Yes, thank you for that. Pause, reflect, reminisce. Very important. So many people live their lives and don't take the time to make sense of it. You know, and that's very important. Um, Now you've had some experience. We first of all we know you're a librarian. For those who don't understand what that involves and why that's important for our community, could you get into that for us? What is a librarian? What do they do? And why is that particular role important in our movement and in our community as you see it?
Right. So librarians are what I would call myself as a gatekeeper of information or a liaison of information between the source and the person that needs it. And oftentimes, people think of librarians as just someone who is working in the library who checks out books. But it is so much more. Let me tell you, because when I first started on this journey, my first job in the library was at a small public library in Southeast Arkansas. And I didn't know what all I was getting into. So a librarian is a community person. It is an advocate, someone who makes a safe space accessible. We provide accessibility as well. So I didn't really understand that a librarian is actually a professional position. So when I started thinking about moving and looking for other jobs in libraries, I saw this requirement that you had to have a master's in library and information studies, right? So I didn't, but I had a lot of great experiences and experience behind me in the library, because in this library I was managing the collection, I was the janitor, I was the programs director, the programmer, and the one who provided the programs, right? And so when I went to library school, I got the formal training to really sharpen my skills and to be more of access to the community I was serving. And so, we have to be. I wrote some time ago. I've been a mother, a counselor, a nurturer, a cook, a chef, uh, uh, all these things that our people need. Um, but I can't be a mind reader. That's the one thing I can't do that I also put in there. So, we're just like a bridge in our community. Again, we provide the we're the bridge to from that information to that person that needs the information because there's so much information out there and there's so many resources that we have a hard time navigating that we provide that navigation for a lot of people. And until you experience really trying to get the information that you need, narrow down the information that you need, you may not understand the importance of a librarian. And I would also add that we also are reader advisors because a lot of times people may want to begin a reading journey and they don't even know where to start. And so we have that experience, that background in asking the right questions so people can find the book they need. We always say every reader a book and every book a reader. So, there's something out there for everyone. Everyone is a reader. You just haven't found what you really like yet. You haven't found that one book that's going to start you on a path to literacy. You're on mute, Bob.
I'm going off the script. Thank you, Sister Crystal. I'm going off the script a little bit with the
Mhm,
questions because it creates kind of an organic flow or
mhm.
conversation. But for those who do not understand, could you explain for us briefly why it's important to have you as a librarian, someone like
Okay.
you versus
Someone like me.
Lily Schweiner as the
Right.
librarian in our
So
communities?
that's a great question because I just wrote an entire article about that in the history of librarians and what we look like, right? And so if you know anything, you know that there was a Jim Crow South, of course, and most of the librarians are white women, right? And so they a lot of I'm trying to phrase this in the correct way. So, but a lot of them give lip service to the fact that they are providing access to everybody. That they don't believe in censorship, this, that, and the other. But I find that a lot of these spaces aren't safe spaces for our people, and a lot of the resources are not equitable. So we need people like me in there to advocate for our people and what we read and what we need and what's safe. I always say that what's safe, and also to remind parents that if you don't want your children exposed to different things at certain ages, you need to make sure that you are with your child in the library because in these public spaces that are funded by public dollars, there's a little bit of everything in there. And so I will remind you that, you may want to do this, or you may want to go here, or you may need to try this. So I'm always advocating for equitable services for us, but I'm also advocating for us to be mindful that some of these spaces are not quite as safe as we think they are as well. So yeah, I'm making sure that we're represented properly too. You know, uh, ask the right questions, know how to ask the right questions, and I hold the people that I work with, who I encounter, accountable as well. So if you come to me and you ask me a question, I'm just going to tell you straight up what I think and how I think it might offend my people or how something else may help them in a better way. So I'm always thinking about us in any shape, form, or fashion. I was in a workshop yesterday, and there was this really interesting discussion about book clubs and community reading. And so I'm already thinking about what I can do, how I can tweak this to fit the community I serve, specifically during Black History Month as a campus read. So I'm always thinking about us first, so to speak.
Mm.
and how I can tweak those ideas and services so that we can be represented and we can have the same access as everyone else.
Yes, thank you for that. So that people are clear that you're not just there giving out books, that this is an actual profession. You had to get a whole degree for it, right? And it takes,
Yes.
because you know how people can be kind of flippant with things. Like, oh,
Mhm.
you just do that. You know, these things are all important. Those of you who are nation builders, I want to say it again. We say it all the time. This is not just about who can build a house, who can plant food, who can make clothes, family. We need all types of working parts to have a nation. So librarians are very important. If literacy is important to you, then librarians are important. Speaking of literacy, Sister Crystal Denise, I think the answer to this for most people say, oh, that's obvious, IJ. That's not a good question, but I think it is. Why is literacy? It seems like you're kind of a person that helps with Black literacy as a librarian. I would imagine you have some say on what books are in a library,
Mm-hmm.
um, things of that nature. Why is literacy so important for our people? The ability to actually read and political literacy or consciousness. Why are those things important from your standpoint as a librarian?
So one of the things that I really advocate is that literacy is the ability to read, write, and think critically, because there are a lot of functioning people, right? There are people who can read, but they don't know, quote, how to read. And so if you're not reading for a clear understanding of something or a particular subject, of course, we all do some pleasure reading, but even in pleasure reading, you can learn something, right? I've learned a lot just by reading novels, historical novels, any kind of novel you can learn by reading. But until you are able to process what you're reading, and like if you're reading about scenery and actually picture that the author is writing about and really think about it, then are you really reading? So literacy in reading gives you that uh, feel. It takes you places. A lot of times people like to say it creates empathy in people. Yeah, it does, to a certain degree, but it also makes you think. Because if you aren't really thinking about, even if you're reading a novel and the author is writing about a particular setting, if you aren't able to process that and think about that setting, then are you really reading? Are you really literate? We talk about functional illiteracy or functional literacy all the time, where people are just reading enough to make it through the day. They aren't really processing what they're reading, because if they were, they probably move a little bit different. And when it comes to our story, it's so important. And that's one of the things that I really try to make us think about, how the past, present, and future are all intertwined, especially in our story. So if you haven't read, for instance, Beauty the Pedagogy, The Life of Carter G. Woodson, and understand that our education, our learning has always been controlled, then you will be surprised that you know this critical race theory talk about them taking all our story out of his story. They're just trying to make our experience disappear. You will understand that none of this is new. If you knew that Woodrow Wilson, you would know that Trump is just taking a play out of his book, right? So when you understand all those things and how things are just redefined and recreated because you study our story, then we would know as a collective how to move going forward. So it's all intertwined. We have to have a ability to read, comprehend correctly and effectively, so that we can move more efficiently and effectively as well. So
And
yeah,
now,
it's all intertwined.
I'm sorry, you mentioned Carter G. Woodson. I like to ask our guests, what intellectuals, scholars, quote unquote, master teachers from our race would you most credit for getting you into the road of Black consciousness?
Mm, that- you-
That's
so
hard, right?
right, and but I do always give credit to when I read the autobiography of Malcolm X. So that was my first step And then from there it was this and that. But then I think the second book that I read that really got me on a path was Black Labor White Wealth by Dr. Claude Anderson. And understanding how law has created this big wealth gap and this great big, gap in knowledge too. And because he also wrote the Dirty Little Secrets book, the things that they don't want us to know about our story. And so that kind of led me on the path. And I started reading some Dr. John Henry Clark. I started listening to some Dr. Amos Wilson lectures. Then I started reading the ISIS papers and listening to Dr. Francis Chris Wilson. So they were all I was listening to everybody simultaneously. But I do think that when I started uh, on my path of teaching Black children, I really started to focus on Dr. Amos Wilson, the most, because
Mm-hmm.
his teachings are so profound, but so easy to understand and
Mm-hmm.
implement in the work that, I would listen to his lectures while I was at work. I was just listening to them back to back to back more than once, because I really think you had to listen, more than once to really get the understanding that is needed to do the work. And then I started reading his work, which is even more profound. So yeah, so it's just a constant, ongoing self study that I do to keep me motivated and inspired as well. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, as you're talking, considering that you are a librarian, I think about my road to consciousness. My father had a small library in the home.
Hmm.
And I bet say small, I mean 30 books, something like that. And that actually got me on the road to literacy really young, and also the consciousness.
Hmm.
Um, do you think? Well, actually, let me go to a question from the Queen Bee that is actually relevant to this. Here, she has a question here. She says she's creating a family library, which is, and so far we got some good books selected. She's trying to encourage people in our community to do the same, especially since there's an effort to eradicate our literature. So that's, what are your thoughts on that? And then secondly, she asks, what suggestions do you have for her in this process?
In the process of creating a library, right?
Mm-hmm.
And but because both of them are processes, and so I just want to go back to what you said about your father, your family having a library. So my mom, she was a reader, but she wasn't a quote conscious reader. We just had a little bit of everything in our home. So I was always exposed to books, but not building a library. So that was something that was new to me, especially once I became a librarian. I understood the importance of building a collection, building an appropriate collection to the people that you want to serve. And so I need to serve myself and I need to serve my children. So that's an ongoing process. But what I find is for my children, I started taking, especially my youngest daughter, because my youngest daughter isn't a reader. And so we would go to the public library every Saturday. There's one that's really great for children. So she would browse the shelves and she would check out books. And if there was something in particular or a certain Black author that she really liked, because she really loved Sharon Draper when she was growing up. So I started building her library with books that she was interested in, Sharon Draper and things of that nature. But my granddaughter, her library is being built, but with a lot more nonfiction, with people who I think that she needs to see and that she's interested in. She really likes this book about Stagecoach Mary and Fearless Mary. So we started there, and then we started buying books about ballerinas, about scientists, just finding something that they're interested in, or maybe that they're not interested in. But you have to give them that exposure so that they can know that they're interested in it, right? So I do have tried to by nonfiction more so than fiction. With fiction, I'll try my public library, and if it's something that I feel that I need to add to my personal library, then I'll purchase it. But yeah, so every chance I get, I tell people you need to buy the print, because you know how when we were growing up, when you needed your lights turned on, the electric company would actually had to come out and physically do something with the light pole, with the wiring to turn your lights on. And now all they had to do is flip the switch and your lights are on or off. So I use that example to tell people with everything being digital, you don't even know how long something is going to be available. So that's what something we were talking about yesterday at this workshop. So a lot of people are trying to watch things on YouTube, on Netflix, the digital format, or read something in these formats, and it's not even there anymore. So all they had to do is start scrubbing our story. And if we don't have anything in print or written down, we don't even have any proof that it exists. And now with the onset of AI, there's so much tampering that can happen with our story. So really getting people to understand that we need to have our stories in writing. We need to have books. We need to have anything that we can curate so that we can have our story in our hand. Right? You're so right. They can change up the digital format too with AI. We see it. We're seeing it. We're seeing it happen right before our eyes. So and in every time you get a chance, just keep repeating that. Keep repeating that. You never know how long it's going to be available because it could be out there in internet space, then the internet heavens, just somewhere just spinning around, and we can't access it anymore. So just finding out what your interests are. I'm interested in history, specifically Mississippi and Arkansas history, because that's where I've been navigating the most lately. Because I'm telling you, our story is fascinating, and when you are able to bridge that past story to the present and then make us understand that how we can make it work for our future, that's even more powerful for our children, especially the ones I work with anyway. So yeah, that's a great question because a lot of people don't even know where to start when it comes to building a home library. Because one of the things I think about too, Sister Brenda, is when I'm no longer here, what's going to happen to it? Are my children going to carry on that legacy, or should I have something in writing to as to where I want it to go? Because I have some pretty good books, and in time they'll probably be expensive, because they may be out of print or something like that. And that's another thing. Our books the books by our Black authors tend to go out of print a lot faster than other authors. So we really want to make sure that we have our libraries intact and complete with our people's work.
That's right. And as an addendum to the last question, the Queen Bee also asks, do you have any suggested book lists or books for various ages? Like, is there a place we can go where somebody has curated, if you got kids this age, these are some books for them, that type of thing?
Mm-hmm. Now, I used to curate titles, and I used to publish a pamphlet, and I still have some of those. They're kind of dated, but you can probably use some of them. Some of them may still work with you for you. There's a online bookstore. I had to get that back to you because I can't think of it right off the top of my head. But they have on their website, they have several lists. So they have bestsellers, they have upcoming books that are to be published. They have like nonfiction lists, children's books as well. So that's a really good source. I want to say it's the African American Literary Book Club. If you kind of just do a Google search, it should pop up. But that's a great source. Trying to think of some other ones because I'm actually working on a presentation to do at a library conference about Read Black with Me. Just a quick, brief presentation on how to get started reading Black. And it's just going to be on fiction, and it's going to be different genres of fiction so people can get started on a reading journey. But yeah, there are some lists out there. There's another organization right in Memphis, Black Books Matter. I think that's her. Our Stories Matter. I think that's her organization. But she sends out a monthly email of Black books that are to be published, and she does it by age groups as well. So that's another resource as well. But yeah, that's a great question because I do think that reading appropriately for your age, especially with our children, my granddaughter, she's a pretty good reader. So I'm getting her into chapter books now. So there are some though that she probably doesn't need to read, and that's just me being, a parent that wants to limit her exposure to certain subject matter until she's ready for it. So yeah, that's a good question because not all books are good for across the age ranges. So yeah,
That's right. That's right. Good question, Queen B.
yes.
Ah. Um. Now, Sister Crystal Denise is a modest sister. I don't see her being the type with a bullhorn running down her resume to people every day. But she has a unique distinction that she has been given almost an honorary designation as the frontline librarian by none other than Mama Ya and Walimu Baruti. So I'd like to know what that meant when you heard them refer to you that way. How did that feel, and what do you take that to mean? What meaning do you take from that when they say that?
So the first time I heard it, I was like, "Whoa!" Wow, because when you do this work, you often get kind of blacklisted or you become isolated. You find yourself in isolation because people try to back away from you or they want to label you a certain way. And so when I heard that, I said, okay, let me sit with that for a minute. I actually had to sit with it for a minute and take a minute to gather myself because if any one of you, if any other people watching know uh Baba and Mama Ya and Baruti, you know that that is really a distinct honor to be given. And so I'm very proud of that title. I wear that title with, my chest out to myself. And I often remind myself when I do find myself in a low space or in that valley that, someone thinks enough of me to give me that title. It reminds me of, in the Bible, if you're a Bible reader, when they asked Jesus who he was, and he said, who do the people say that I am?
Mm-hmm.
And and then, again, another example is when the great Walter Payton, Mississippian, by the way, says, when you're good at something, you tell people. When you're great at something, they'll tell you. And so, for that title, because I do consider myself to be out there. I consider myself to be the voice in the librarian field that so many other people are in other areas of life that may feel the same isolation, that may feel the same pushback, that may feel the same being labeled. And so it's not something that I take lightly. And oftentimes when I'm reading or when I'm thinking about how to write a book review or share a book with people, I always think about that. And I often think about the expectation and the responsibility, accountability that comes with that title as well, especially when I know the title giver. And I want to be mindful of that. And I want to represent that well in everything I do. So yeah, when the elder gives you a title or bestows an honor like that upon you, it is something that we should take seriously and should be responsible as we handle it. So yeah, again, I do it because I feel like it's my divine assignment. I love it. I'm passionate about it. And I feel very fortunate to be in a place, in a space where I can do it. And so I thank you as well for recognizing the work um, that I do, and all those who are on recognizing and supporting the work I do. And as Still Learning said, giving me the flowers while I still am here to enjoy them and appreciate them. And my children are sitting here listening, and I appreciate that because sometimes I think they need to know that
That's
what I'm
right.
doing is something that is appreciated by other people,
That's right.
because they are. My youngest daughter was like, Mom, one of the things I respect about you is that you do what you do and you don't care what we think. I don't, because I know what it is. And one day, you'll appreciate it and you'll be talking about what I did to some of your peers, friends, colleagues, and such, because I do it too. When I was younger, their age, I couldn't understand some of the things my parents were doing, some of the decisions they made. But once I got older, I really appreciated everything they did and still do. Yeah.
That's right. I like your reference also to something I use all the time, divine assignment.
Hmm.
I think that sense of purpose, I study I don't want to say successful. I'll say I study empowered people,
Hmm.
biographies of all types of all races, genders, whatever. Try to find out what are some of the key things they all do. And one of the things they all have in common, Sister Crystal Denise, is they are very crystal clear. Pardon the pun of your name there. Crystal clear about what they are here to do. They
Hmm.
don't waver, they don't waffle. I'm here to play ball. I'm
Right.
here to teach. I'm here to whatever. They're very clear, and that clarity gives them almost a superpower,
Hmm.
enables them not to get caught up as much. We still
Yeah.
get caught up, right? But
Yeah.
not as much because we're very clear on what we're here to do. What's your take on that? Because you seem to be pretty clear on what you're here to do.
Yeah. And that I think that comes with growth and just finding what your purpose is, and staying on and know to stay on that square. Because sometimes I have, step back from it and tried to do something else, and I found that wasn't working. That was not going to work. So I got to get back on my square literacy. And so really every day waking up trying to stay on that square, and find a way to really uh broaden that, make that square a little bit wider to reach more people. So I'm always working on my skill set. What is it that I really need to do to make sure that we understand the importance of literacy, and making sure that our children are reading fluently, they're comprehending what they're reading, they have a passion for reading. What can I do to promote literacy every day? What can I read that I think my people might be interested in reading? What can I do to expand discussion around books that I think would be beneficial to our community? What can I do to make sure that we understand that we have to find a book that we like, or we have to start a path to reading, that we have to start a path to learning, that we have to, it's just always something that I know that I can do to further promote what it is that I'm doing. And you're right, with so much going on, especially if you're on any type of social media. So I can only handle two right now. I can't handle all this other stuff, because I'm trying to read more, and stay focused, and not get caught up in all the other stuff that's going on, because it's so easy to get distracted and start looking at something else, and start going down other rabbit holes that are not beneficial. Now I will go down a rabbit hole, but I want to go down the rabbit holes that are beneficial to us, that promote us, that's going to help me with some type of curriculum for us. So yeah, just it's staying focused. And one thing that I have been determined to do is be deliberate and intentional about limiting my social media time, being deliberate and intentional about choosing books that I want to read. So one of the things that I do at the academic library I work in is I catalog all the new books for the libraries, for the three libraries that the community college serves, the three campuses rather. And I get to handle every new title that comes into the library. And there are a lot of interesting books. I don't want to say good. There are a lot of interesting topics that come through. And so sometimes I get caught up in reading the synopsis of them. And sometimes I get caught up in thinking that I want to read that book. And so I had to quickly decide, okay, do I really want to read this book? Because I'll put my name on it. So once it's processed, it'll come back to me. So I have to be more intentional about what I put my name on. now, because at one point I was bringing like 5, 6, 7 books home a week, and I would start some of them, wouldn't finish them, things of that nature. So I really want to be intentional about what I'm reading and how to promote what I'm reading in a way that will pique the interest of other readers. And same thing with the children's books. So with the children I work with, I'm trying to be much more intentional about choosing the books that they're reading, that we're reading as a group. So yeah, it is knowing what you want to do, knowing what your well not what you want to do, knowing what your divine purpose is. And I think a lot of times we don't really understand how important that is, because I've had this conversation before. When you start meditating and you really want to be on a path of serving the community, and you start walking in that path, walking in that, your sense of self will increase. Your self worth, how you feel about yourself. I told my sister, I said, one of the things that we can do to combat some of depression is find our path. What is it that you're supposed to be doing? How are you supposed to be serving your community? Because I know working with these children gives me life. you know, I'm looking forward to being with them each week, to hear them read out loud to each other, to see the camaraderie, seeing the camaraderie and the confidence of these children reading. It will give you some joy that you didn't even know that you needed. So being out there working with the children, working with the elders, anyone in the community, I think, is much needed for our mental health. I think you're on mute. Are you on mute, Baba?
There I go again. Oh man, I tell you. So there's a bookstore in Harlem that may be on the brink of closing. Read this long email, they get asking for help, whatever. They're a very important community space. One of the things that the owner, Jennifer Wilson of Sisters Uptown Bookstore in Harlem,
Mm-hmm.
has said repeatedly is because white folk are banning books, taking books out of public libraries. Who knows, that may lead to book burning, which tends to happen in fascist regimes. But her point was that we should anticipate that, and we should be buying classic books, like actually very intentionally buying, Destruction of Black Civilization, Native
Mm-hmm.
Son, I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings, all of that. What do you think about that? Is that a good strategy, do you think?
I think it's a great strategy. I think, people think that it won't come to that, but I beg to differ. History is a great teacher. And I think I know that's why we have to know our story. Because if we don't know our story, then you won't think it will happen until it's happening. So yeah, I'm a big advocate of supporting Black bookstores. I'm a big advocate because they're not just bookstores, they're community. Right there in Memphis, we had Java Jazz and Juice, owned by Mama Tony, and it's just gone now. And some of our greats walked through those doors, and now it's not there. So where are we communing? What spaces do we have? We have to understand that these are safe spaces for us too. We have to have spaces that we can go unwind, be ourselves, be unapologetic, which I try to do that anywhere, any space I occupy. But sometimes we just have to have a place where we can just go be us, and celebrate our excellence. One of the things I hate to see us do is have all these banquets and things in white spaces. I'm like, how do you celebrate Black excellence in white spaces? We need to be having our own spaces to celebrate our Black excellence in. So yeah, I don't know how we get that message across. People think that we'll always have access to social media and digital books. Ebooks is a whole thing. Audiobooks is a whole thing now.
Oh yeah.
So how do we get people to understand that it might not be always a thing.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, one of the things that I'm thankful that I have a cousin who has done our genealogy on my maternal grandfather's line, and she has preserved so much of our story. And when you go back and you look at that, that would give you an understanding of why we had to preserve our stories in all facets. Not just your lineage, but our story. The Dr. Clarks, the Dr. Chancellor Williams, all those that you name. We need to have those stories. We need to have them in written form as well.
That's right.
Yeah.
Now, still learning asks a good question, and that is, what is one good book you would recommend that to introduce an elementary school age child to Black history?
So I have this book, The ABCs of Black History, and those books are really good because it kind of covers a broad range of historical figures and events in some organizations in these books. A is for Maya Angelou, and then it just names all these people, places, and events that you can also get specific copies for that person, place, or an event, right? So things of that nature that they rhyme and they have like a tune to them to read with your children. And I also like Hey Black Child for Black children,
Mm-hmm.
because you can also explore other books as well. But any kind of ABC alphabet book that explores other things, people, places, things, events, is good, because then, like I said, sometimes the reader, the child, may ask a question about a specific, and then you can go and find another book. So it can kind of lead you on a journey to find other titles according to Black history. But those are some of my favorite ones just to get started, to introduce your child. That's what I did for my granddaughter. So now we have books about, we have the hair love book. We talk about hair at an early age as well. We have the photographer doing the Harlem Renaissance, Van der Zin. He was a photographer during the Harlem Renaissance. We have books about Maya Angelou. We have books about the Harlem Renaissance as well. So, it'll just kind of, you know, take you on an adventure to other titles. Yeah, so that's a great question, because a lot of times people just don't know where to start. I also like the legends, the little legends, where she does the biographies of different historical women and men. She does those biographies, and then she has some in the board books as well. So yeah, board book form as well. And I love board books for babies because they're sturdy and they can handle those, and they like to look at the pictures and things of that nature. So that's a great question. Thank you.
Sister Crystal, I think the Queen missed it. Did you, that first book, was it the ABCs of Black History?
Yes.
Okay.
Mhm.
She
And there's
wanted.
also an ABC of HBCUs that's really cool too.
Ah,
So it has all the HBCUs in there, and some of them have some of the historical figures that attended those HBCUs. So that's a good one too.
now another thing that people may not know about you, Sister Crystal, is that in addition to more of your career work as a librarian, you do very clear community work, right in our neighborhoods, interacting with our people. Could you tell us more about the Oasis Literacy Center and Ashe Academy?
Sure can. So the Oasis Center is a directly created because of the work I do in the academic library. So when I first started working in the academic library, I found that a lot of our children are in remedial reading courses, and my mission was to find out why. Why are so many of our children taking this reading class? Oh, it's because they didn't score 16 or above composite on the ACT. Why? And then my next question was, well, why don't you like to read? Oh, it's because it's boring. Okay, so reading is boring. I get that if you haven't been exposed to the right type of books. And so it was there I began to kind of explore Black books. And I started, selecting Black books to add to the library's collection. And at that time, a co-worker told me, she said, Crystal, I'm very thankful that you're here, because we have had students come in that I've never seen before. We have a lot more Black students coming in checking out books. And so that just further kind of validated what I needed to do. So I'm like, okay, at the college level, it's cool that I'm exposing these students to reading, and some of them are developing some type of love for reading, or even more like a like for reading. But what I need to do is start trying to expose our children on the front end, catch them while they're young, to awaken that love for reading. I love that word that Dr. Wilson uses, awaken. So I want to awaken their reading interest. So um, I went and talked to an elder here. Well, she's in a different community, but she directed me. She said, Christy, what you need to do is create a nonprofit. And so we have um, the Oasis Literacy Center, so we want to be that place of hope, that restorative and restoration for our people out in the desert, out in the wilderness. We're that oasis that they can come to be refreshed and refined. And so we have the Oasis Literacy Center, which is our nonprofit, our 501c3, where we go out into the community. We do reading programs, we tutor, we help you with your lifestyle. If you need someone to listen to, if you need someone to coach you through, we try to do all that. And also, we're part of the Black Liberation Movement as well. So we have the Agriculture Initiative, where we're growing our food. We're teaching our children the importance of growing food and things of that nature. So once we got established with Oasis, we realized soon that we needed to create an institution, because if we don't institutionalize our teachings, they're kind of just be out there in the air. And so we were doing after school tutoring sessions, and we had named it Ashe, after school education. Well, when we
Nice.
wanted to do and move into the institution building, we wanted to keep the acronym. So Ashe is African Stimulated Education. And so we just kind of moved into that area. And with Ashe, we are more structured. So we have curriculum, we have Saturday schools based on that curriculum. We partnered up with some of the Liberated Minds instructors. So they're delivering content on Saturday as well. Right now, we're into our African Warrior series with one of the instructors. So she's teaching about um, nation building, and so they've really been into that, really been engrossed in that, and it's really been good for me to let someone else come in and handle some of the delivery. So yeah, so we also have the Read Black with Me after school reading program. So we meet once a week, and for those who are consistent with meeting, they have the book. We provide the book to each family that we're reading. And right now, all month, we're focusing on Baba Malcolm X. So we're reading Malcolm Little, the boy who grew up to be Malcolm X, that was written by his daughter. And they read. I don't read. I just kind of guide and facilitate the session. So they read out loud. And I find that when you encourage your children to read out loud to you, it creates an interest, and it builds their confidence in reading. And so I've seen a lot of growth in our scholars, because this is our second year. We're finishing up our second year of that program. And I've seen so much growth and camaraderie develop with the scholars. And it's been so rewarding for me, because it lets me know that there are children who are still loving to read. We have students from about 5 different states who come on the call weekly. And I'm telling you, there are some readers. Most of them are homeschooled, which is just a great visual of what homeschooling does for our children. These scholars are great, very well taught, and very well read as well.
Mm.
So my whole thing is that most of our children have the capacity to learn and think at that level if they're just given the right support systems and in the right settings. So it gives me hope. It keeps me inspired and encouraged to keep moving in on my path.
Mhm. Now we are coming towards the end of the program. So first, let me say, those you watching, we thank you for spending your time and energy with us. We encourage you, if you have not already, to subscribe to our channel. Also, we want to thank Crystal Denise, Sister Crystal Denise, for the work she does in her in the professional line of her life and the career line, but also the work she does intentionally, deliberately for and with our community. That's very important. I remember I was on 125th Street, just walking past with a friend from college, and I look in, and Khalid Muhammad was getting fitted for a suit.
Mhm.
Right, standing right, you can see him. So I run in, Brother Khalid turns around, brother, what's up? He comes down. So we talk, and my friend goes and leaves. And so now we build. I said, brother, it's been a little while. I haven't seen you. Haven't talked. What's going on? What organization have you started? Or are you in? So I said, well, I'm a teacher, and we started school. He said, no, 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 brother. I didn't ask you what you do for a living. He said, I asked you what organization are you in, and he got on my case. He got on my case pretty rough about that.
Mhm.
So the fact that you have the career and you're in the community is very important. And he hammered that home for me. I'll never forget that.
Mhm.
I do have one last question though for this interview, my sister, and that is, Sister Crystal, with all you have done, are doing, and probably will continue to do, what is the legacy that you want to leave on this planet? What is the major thing you want to leave for our people in the work you do?
So my passion is literacy, and I want us to be a more literate community. And when I say literate, I mean the ability to read, write, think critically, process information, make that information work for us. Don't just have the knowledge just to say you know. Make sure you understand what to do with that knowledge. And so when I'm not here, when my children are here to speak for me and to remember me, I want them to remember me by that. As someone who is always promoting literacy, passionate about literacy, passionate about us thinking our way out through situations. So one of the things that I plan to do this summer in my downtime is to do more writing so that I can make sure that that is known. I want to write about my journey to frontline librarianship, and I also want to honor some of those frontline librarians that came before me so that people can know that librarians matter, have always mattered, that literacy matters as well. So that's a great question because I think we do need to think about what is it that I want to leave? What impact do I want to make on this time? Because time is so precious. It's so precious and it's
Right.
so limited. So, we really need to think about that. Yeah. So literacy and the passion that I have for it, and the passion that I have for our story, telling our story. I want that to be remembered and respected.
There you have it, family. Sister Crystal Denise coming live from Mississippi doing really important work. Really, really important work, and reminding us that building a nation ain't four things, family. There's no magic pill or bullet for liberation. We need 20 different things going on at the same time or more, right? So we know that in our black, independent black or new African nation, however you define yourself, Sister Crystal Denise would be one of the people that might be managing our library system for all we know. Or so that's important what she's doing. And I challenge you, if you're watching live or the later recorded version, to think about what you do, what you
Mhm.
know, and see how you can make your contribution to our liberation movement. Please don't think that you got to speak like Malcolm, know as much as Dr. John Herbert Clark, be as great a problem solver as Dr. Amos Wilson. You don't necessarily have to be anybody else. Be you and use the gift that the divine gave you and give it to us. Share it with us. So I'm really happy that we had you on today, Sister Crystal Denise. And maybe when you said you're going to be doing some writing, maybe if you're doing some books, we can have you back on and talk about those books.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you for having
Absolutely.
me. It's been a pleasure. I always enjoy talking with you. You always ask great questions. And Sister Brenda, you know it's all love. So yeah, you ask great questions too. And I think still learning is Sister Cat. So Sister Cat, thank you for tuning in and being supportive. So very supportive in the work as well. I appreciate all of you.
All right. Thank you again, Sister Crystal. We all are going to stay in touch. If
Mhm.
ever you need to, I don't know, share some information on a wide scale, get information out to a lot of people at one time, please consider us as one of the venues you would go to, one of the organizations. The channel only has about over close to 5,500 subscribers, but they say anywhere from 15 to 100,000 people come in every
Mhm.
week and view. So we're reaching a lot of people. So we want to make sure that we make ourselves available to our activists and organizers and educators to get the word out. All right. So please consider us if you need to get something out. All right.
Yes, sir. Thank
And with
you.
that
Thank
said,
you.
I'm sorry.
I was just saying thank you again.
Yes, thank you. And with that said, family, peace and black power. I'm not one of these defeatists. I'm not an apologist for white supremacy. I ain't scared of Donald Trump or none of them, right? I believe if we organize, read, work together, love ourselves, stop hating, stop trying to be somebody we will never be, thankfully, then we will win. And you have to believe it. I wake up saying it, family. I go to sleep saying it. In my devotions twice a day, it's an affirmation. We will win.
We will win.
We will win. We got to program that. We have to stop being this the way you hide stuff from black people is putting it in a
In the
book.
book.
See, that's that anti-literacy. That's that anti-intellectual thing. I'm so glad we got somebody on that represents pro-literacy. That it's good to be smart. Somebody told us it was good to be dumb, family. And that when you see a brother or sister that's smart, treat them funny. See, who taught you that? So I'm glad we got somebody on this that's helping us to change that. With that said, family, peace and black power. Peace, Sister Crystal. And we're going to have
Yes.
more sisters on here, family. We're going to be
Yes.
showing y'all that the sisters is throwing down, and we got to see them and recognize them and support them. Peace and black
Right.
power, family.
By power.
I love you, sister.